Okay, I thought I'd make a quick video on how to install the motor mount system in the new Stinger LTE, which is a lightened version of the Stinger. Comes in a couple different pieces. We've got the firewall, which I've painted black. There's a top of the firewall. The outside has 4 holes in the outside there, which are just kind of partially tapped in. That's where the screws go to hold the motor mount on. So make sure you know that there is a top and a bottom to it. Then we've got a doubler that goes inside the wing right behind the spars. And the way this works is the motor mount's going to go here, and we're going to have 2 spars, and they're going to go through there and into this doubler. We're going to epoxy this doubler in place. We're going to epoxy the firewall in place, and we're going to fill those holes in with white Gorilla Glue because it'll expand out into the foam. So the first thing we need to do is we need to glue the dowels into the firewall. And to do this, there's the 2 outside dowels, and then we're going to use a center dowel. This is actually just a piece that's going to end up using to set the firewall straight. But the way this is going to work is we're going to glue these outer dowels in here. But to do this, to make sure this is all nice and straight, we're going to use all 3 dowels. And remember, only glue the outer dowels, don't glue the center dowel in. And what we're going to do is we're going to tool. And the idea is what we want to do is when we glue these dowels in, got a piece of wax paper here, we'll use CA. Just make sure everything's squared up so these dowels, when they're glued into the firewall, are perfectly straight so they'll go into that firewall real easy. So I've got it set in like this right now. Yeah, I've got this pretty straight, so what we're going to do is we're going to just pull them out, and I'm going to use some medium thick CA. This is stick fast stuff. I like this stuff here because it has a kind of a longer setup time. Remember, you're only gluing the outside of the outer dowels in, not that center dowel. That center dowel is just to center everything. Put that in there. Push these dowels flush with the table. We want to make sure the center dowel's in there. Whoops. Okay. And we'll take a look at it and make sure that it's all lined up straight. There we go. And we're going to give that a second to harden. Next, we're going to prepare to put the firewall in. That's pretty straightforward, but you want to do a couple of preparatory things first to make sure everything fits right. Here's the firewall with the dowels glued in. Our next thing to do is we're going to take that 3rd dowel back there, and we're going to, that just simply inserts in the front here. And what we're going to use that for is a pointer to set our firewall straight. If this dowel is a little bit loose right there, because it needs to fit nice and firm, so it will, it sits in there perpendicular to the firewall. What you can do is just take a little bit of thick CA, float on the end right there, hit it with some kicker till it hardens, put it in there just next to it, just a little bit, and you may have to put a couple coats on it, and it should fit in there nice and firm, okay, like that. That way it's perpendicular to the firewall and it won't move. The other thing I've done is I've taken a piece of string, in this case it was dental floss, and I have run it from the center of the trailing edge. And depending on how you got your elevons cut, these elevons are cut out here, so that's currently in place. And then I've just taken a straight edge, and I've gone right down the center thing, and I've taken a Sharpie and put a mark right there. That's a center line to set our thrust angle. Now you want to go ahead and put this doubler in and do a couple trial fittings. In fact, it's easier to fit this thing before you put the string on. You want to make sure when you're ready to glue it on, it all fits in there and all fits in there right. So what should happen is, the other thing is these dowels here, sharpen them. Okay, just take a sandpaper and sharpen them. That way they'll go in the holes easier. If you just leave them blunt, it's kind of a pain to find those holes in there. And you want to set this doubler in there, get everything lined up, and make sure it goes in there, and set everything. And if everything's built correctly, because this is all machine flat, that pointer should Point right there at that dot right there. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to glue the firewall and the doubler in, and we're going to be using 5-minute epoxy and this white Gorilla Glue to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to use epoxy to push the doubler down inside there. We're going to use epoxy to mount the firewall. Then we're going to fill those holes with the Gorilla Glue, because when that stuff hardens, it expands and it'll surround those dowels in there. It doesn't add hardly any weight. What y'all might also do is on this doubler, when it's sitting there, when you got it set right, just mark it. Well, I've done the center, and just kind of look and see where it sits flush, because you got to take this out, epoxy it, and push it back in, then have those dowels fit in. So next we're going to glue it in. So I'm going to take a second. I'm going to mix up my 5-minute epoxy, and we'll set the firewall in. I get this 5-minute epoxy mixed up here. Obviously, we need to work a little quickly. This 5-minute epoxy. It does give you plenty of time, though. And with the epoxy, just make sure to mix it up thoroughly. Okay, now we got that. First thing we'll do is we're going to install the doubler. Mark, so we should be pretty close there. Try not to fill that hole up in the center too much, so you can get that center dowel out, but worst comes to worst and you glue it in, it's not that big of a deal, because you can always just cut it off flush. Put the epoxy there. And we're going to take, oops, I'm using a small end. You want to put it in. Not a whole lot, but enough, because you want to use the gap filling properties of the epoxy. So now, with that, we're going to take this Gorilla Glue, and we're going to fill these holes. So make sure you get enough in there so it gets down in there, and just kind of punch it in and squeeze it in. Now it is going to foam out the top. You'll have to, typical with this stuff here. Now, if we got that done, we're going to get this thing pushed in. And there we go. Now, adjust the firewall. Obviously, this little pointer, you have to where it points right at that dot and right at that string. There we go. As you can see, that's dead on. Now, put it in there. Apply a little pressure. Now, what we have to do is just simply let that dry. And while it's drying in place, what we'll probably do is just kind of hold with our fingers and keep that thing lined up and add a little bit of pressure to the foam right there until the epoxy sets up.